Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video because this is going to be update number 1 in my Pan Those eyeshadows for 2020. If you guys missed my introduction, I will leave that linked in the cards down below, etc. And then if you're interested in catching my 2019, I'll leave that playlist linked down below as well. This was a series that was started by Lexi many years ago on YouTube, and it really picked up last year. And I love that everyone's kind of like tailored it to kind of be their own. I did something different than I'm doing last year, and I've already like really been enjoying how I'm doing it this year as opposed to last year. So if you are interested in seeing my progress and hearing a little bit more about how I am currently structuring my Pan Those eyeshadows, then stay tuned. But first, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I do hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do post videos 5 days a week. But other than that, let's just get into the video. Okay, so I have structured my project just a little bit differently this year. I still randomly select 5 shades to work on, but I have decided that if those shades have been rolling for 3 months and I've used them a minimum of 15 times, meaning I've like actually put effort into using the shadows, and I'm just like not feeling it, not feeling the progress, I do have the opportunity at that time to roll that shadow out. I also am selecting a 6 shade, just me personally, like choosing any shade in my makeup collection, in my eyeshadow collection to work on, and hopefully hit pan on. And then if I decide to roll that pan out at the end of the month, that is the one pan or the one exception I've given myself. The shade that I actually select for myself, if I haven't hit pan on it, I can roll something new in. I am really excited to say that I have 3 pans to share with you guys. One of them came from one of my randomly generated eyeshadows. The second came from the one that I randomly selected for myself. And then I did have a bonus pan as well to share with you guys. So I'm really excited to share this progress with you. And let's just jump into it. Okay, so I will be posting like now versus then pictures of each of the eyeshadows. Let's start with the palette that I selected myself to work on. So this is the Natasha Denona Mini Star palette, and the shade that I was really focused on was this one right here, and I hope you can see that that does have a pan going on it. I do feel like I've made pretty significant progress in this middle shade as well, and in fact I am going to be keeping this just in my everyday makeup drawer. Anytime that I can try and get some use out of this shade, I'm going to be like unofficially trying to pan that shade as well. I did end up using the Mini Star palette a total of 20 different times, so that's super exciting, and I'm really excited that I have hit a pan this year, 3 to be exact, but this is one of the pans that I was able to hit. Next up, we had my ABH Carly palette, and the shade that I was working on in here was this shade right here, which is in the shade Bear, which is honestly like kind of a satin lid setting shade. When I first used it on the lid, I was like, ooh, I'm not sure if this is gonna work for me because it's definitely not a matte shade, but it's not shimmery enough that it doesn't work as a lid setting shade. So that's how I used it. I did also end up using this shade a total of 20 times, and hoping again you can see that this definitely has some good pan going in it. What's really funny about this is I normally, when I'm trying to pan stuff, like I'm always like oh my gosh, like looking for that pan every single day. And I pulled this out one day and realized that I had already hit like really baby pan on it and must have just like missed it the day before, which is insane. But very excited to have hit pan on Bear from the Carly palette, meaning we will also roll this palette out. So then we had my Pat McGrath Bronze Seduction, I think this is. It's either the Bronze Seduction or the Bronze Temptation. This is my Pat McGrath palette, and the shade that I was working on was this one right here. I don't have the shade name written down, but it is this. Here, I'll swatch this. It's this gold shimmery shade with a lot of glitter in it. I did end up using this one a total of 6 times, and what I will say about this shade, I hope that you can see that there is definitely a dent in the shade. What I'll say about this shade is that I do feel like throughout the day the glitter particles in it can tend to fall off your face if you're not using or fall off your eyelids if you're not using a glitter glue, so you have to be a little bit careful with the primer that you're using with this, but this is also paired really nicely with a lot of the neutral looks that I've been doing. This works for work for me. So I did use this 6 times. I don't think I'll have any problem using this another, you know, 6 to 10 times by the next update, but I don't feel like I'm going to be anywhere close to pan with this. I do love this palette. Another thing I wanted to mention is I lost my phone and I lost quite a few pictures, including the original pictures that I had taken of my Pan Those palettes. So progress like might look a little more minimal than it actually was. Like I had pictures before I pulled the palettes in and used them at all, and the pictures that I'm going to be showing you for comparison was after a few uses, which is a bummer. But you can definitely see that there is a divot or a dip starting in that shade, which is really, really exciting. Again, I used this 6 times and I feel like I'm gonna get a ton more use out of this in the month of February. Next up, we had my Violet Voss Essentials palette, and the shade that I selected for this was Cream, which is the shade right here, which I was expecting to be like another shade that I could use as an all over lid setting shade. But for Cream, it is more of like a really intense inner corner highlight. I don't know how well it's gonna pick up on screen. Now this looks really, really nice with like an all matte brown neutral shade, and then just using this in the inner corner. I've really enjoyed it that way. Hoping again you'll be able to see there is a dip going in this. However, I do feel like this is gonna be a really slow going shade and really hard to hit pan on. I'm not sure how deep the pans are in this, but I feel like this is going to be a tough one. I did use this a total of 10 times. I'm hoping to at least be able to use it another 10 times this next month, but I still feel like that's not going to be enough to hit pan on that shade. So then next up we had my Huda Gemstones palette, and I selected this middle bright purple shade. Bright purple. I did end up using this one time. I think I ended up wearing this on like a Vikings game day. No, not the game day that we ended up losing to the 49ers, which still pains me a little bit. But I did end up using this one time. This is gonna be a tough one, you guys. I'm hoping that I can make some more progress with this month and get closer to that 15 number, but I just am not reaching for bright purple shades like this. If you guys have any like tags of like Instagram photos or like Pinterest photos where you feel like someone just like nails it with like a solid like bright purple look, leave it for me down below. Give me some inspiration ideas for this one. But this is going to be a tough one. Sorry, I just want to see what that shade looks like. That's pretty. I do really like the Gemstone palette in general for lid topping shades. I love the Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes. You guys already know this, but I feel like of all the shades, of course it had to be this bright purple shade. So have not made much progress on that one at all. And then the last palette came from, or the last shade came from the Baby Got Peach palette from ColourPop, and it is in the shade Get Even, which is right here. And I didn't use this shade at all, you guys. I'm a little bit disappointed in myself. Here it is swatched right here. As you can tell, it's just a really like bright corally orange shade, and I was going for more like neutral brown looks rather than like warmer, more corally looks, which is why I didn't reach for the shade at all. So I'm gonna be needing to step up my game here, make some more progress on this one. But these are the 4 shades that will still be going in my like quintet, and then we will quickly randomly select a new shade to work on, and then I'll share with you the shade that I have personally selected to work on. But first I want to show you the bonus pan that I was able to hit this month. So it comes from my Zoeva Cocoa Blend palette, and I had actually pulled this palette to potentially use in this month's Pan Those eyeshadows. I was thinking about working on this shade right here, which is in the shade Substitute for Love. So I just had this palette pulled, and then I had been using Bitter Start as an all over lid setting shade. This is another one, you guys. Normally I'm like Inspector Gadget when I'm looking for pan, and I knew I had been getting close. And then I actually pulled this palette out today because I was getting ready to film this video, and I thought that this was going to be the palette I was going to be working on for my selection, and I realized I had already hit pan in this shade. So I have hit pan on 3 new shades in the start of 2020. Before today, I had pan on, I believe it was 24 shadows, and now I have 27 pans of eyeshadow throughout my collection. I do have over 1,000 eyeshadow pans in my collection, especially considering all of the new pans that I have brought in. So currently I am at 2.5% of my makeup collection having pan. I don't really have necessarily a goal for a percentage, but I think it's fun to kind of track the pan percentage that you have going in your collection. So I'm just always going to shout those numbers out every single update that I have for you guys. But let's jump into the new random shade that we are going to be selecting to be working on going forward. Hopefully just in the month of February. Maybe we can just like really quick whiz through a pan, but let's see. Okay, so I have added quite a few eyeshadow palettes to my collection the last few months, or not months, last few weeks rather. Ooh. And now we are gonna have to randomly generate a number between 1 and 1066. So I have my Pretty Random app and we get number 33, really? Oh my gosh, is this accurate? How am I getting all low numbers? Okay, we're starting over. Okay, we got everything ready to go. We're shaking it up and we get number 545. So let me quickly reference my spreadsheet and see what palette we are gonna be looking at. Okay, so I am excited kind of to say that the shade is going to be coming from the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. This used to be my literal ride or die palette, and I haven't reached for this in such a long time. So the shade that we are going to be looking for is called Charmed, I'm sure. I feel like I like this one. I feel like maybe it's like a matte brown. I could be wrong though. I know Luscious out of this shade is like a really beautiful shimmer that I love, so I'm hoping to get some good use out of that during my time with this palette. But let's see, Charmed, I'm sure. So it is a matte brown shade. It's not the one that I was expecting. It's this one up here, but this one does look kind of neutral enough that I can get away with this one at work. It is a little bit darker, but I'm sure with like a more neutral transition shade, I can really make this work. The one thing I will say about Too Faced eyeshadow in general is that it definitely takes quite some time to hit pan on these shades. I do have pan in one pan of this palette in Peaches and Cream, and then this Luscious shade, like I said, I really do love. So I am really excited to get some use out of this palette. It's been a while since I've reached for it. It has not gotten love, so very excited to have pulled this palette. This is what my quintet is looking like, but we are going to add a 6th shade because we're going to add a shade of my choice that I want to be working on. So I'm going to go grab that really quick and I will be right back. So typically the shades that I'm selecting to work on are going to be pretty boring because I like to select a shade that, one, I think I can make some really good progress on, and two, I can like wear pretty much every day to work. So I'm going to be selecting a shade out of my Baked Browns palette from Dose of Colors. This is a favorite palette of mine, and the shade that I'm going to be working on is this 2nd shade right here, which is in the shade Deserted, and I'm hoping that this will go. So I am hoping that this Deserted shade I can use with this Charmed, I'm sure shade from the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette and get some good use out of that. I'm also thinking, since I'll already be pulling for this palette quite a bit, I'm going to try and see what type of progress I can make on this lid setting shade. I feel like I'm always just trying to pan all my lid setting shades. So this is kind of what my quintet sextet looks like now. So I will try and take a picture of this and maybe insert it so that hopefully you can get a better look. And then we will be taking before and afters as always, and I will be showing you like my side by sides. I will say, you guys, I am really bad at taking photos of looks I'm creating with these palettes. I know a lot of people will then post pictures of like all the looks that they created with their palettes. I'm not so great at that. Sorry if that bothers you. Leave me a comment if you're like super passionate about wanting to see some of the looks that I create with my palettes. I mean, if I do like a special look with like this purple shade, then yes, I will share it. But a lot of these are just like really boring neutral brown looks, and oftentimes I'm just like running out the door for work too, so I don't necessarily have time to be like taking all the selfies in the world. Anyway, you guys, that is going to conclude today's update for my Pan Those eyeshadows. I'm already feeling super inspired by this project, even more so than I was last year. 3 pans in a month, I'm really proud of myself. And I feel like I wasn't like being wasteful. Like sometimes last year, I feel like there'd be times where I probably like overuse a shade or like just continue to blend because I was trying to pan. And I'm really trying to get away from that this year because it's stupid to be wasteful, in my opinion. So very excited about this new month of pan those eyeshadows. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you're doing this project, or just let me know if you hit any pans on eyeshadows this month. I would love to celebrate with you guys because it's always so exciting to hit pan on new eyeshadow or just pan on any products in general. But thank you so much for sticking around to watch today's update and supporting my channel, and I will catch you in tomorrow's video. Bye.